congratulations on this brand new album. I've sat down over the last 24 hours and I think I've listened to it 3 or 4 times. It's an amazing album. Congratulations.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you saying that. I'm kind of just talking to some of the first people that have heard it, so it's kind of wild to get some feedback on it after all this time. Thank you.
Do you still get nervous when you've got a new album coming out, or do you feel more excitement than nerves?
Well, I mean, I was a little nervous on this one, but I guess this one was also pretty different. You know, we've written a lot of records, but we've never written one during a pandemic before, so it was a really different experience for us, and certainly with losing the touring side of, you know, it's become a business, losing that made it really challenging, you know, for us, because it's, you know, you kind of find yourself in this position where, you know, it's like, well, I can't, you know, pay a single bill or really I'm in complete free fall here, but I'm also still supposed to be writing, you know, some great deathcore record. It's kind of, it creates a weird dichotomy. So I was a little nervous because I didn't know if, you know, us just being us and trying to find some joy in the studio and trying to find some fun in the record was, you know, sometimes you just don't know how that's going to be received, because we kind of weren't thinking about critics this time around and weren't really thinking about reviews. We just sort of were thinking about, man, I'd rather be in here writing music with my friend than facing reality, you know?
Yeah. And what was the lockdowns like there for you? We did 200 days in lockdown last year and we're back in lockdown now. What was that like for you guys over there? And did the fact that you weren't on the road, did that give you more time to write?
It was really tough for us here. You know, we're in Southern California, so, you know, we're basically on house arrest for, I don't know exactly how many days, but March 12th was when our tour was canceled, the day it was supposed to start. So March 12th, and, you know, we're you know, basically still waiting to go back on tour. So I don't know how many days. It's been a long time though. Yeah, it was grim, and it totally affected the writing, because, you know, we'd never taken this much time to just sit at home. You know, we're a touring band. That's kind of the soul of what this band is we're live performance. So having all the time in the studio was new for us. It was a blessing in disguise, so to speak, because I think we got really amazing results from it. But it definitely was not something that we were, you know, planning on or expecting, and we really just tried to take the time to make the most of it.
Yeah, it feels like with this album that you guys took a journey back as well. There's a really old school sound there, and of course you re-recorded some of the tracks from your first album as well. What was that like, taking that journey back in time, and was that what you set out to do from the start?
Take a journey back in time? No, I will say we reflected on it in that, you know, when we wrote that record, it was kind of similar to some of the things I was saying, where we were kind of just, we had no expectations. We were just having fun writing music with the person next to us. We weren't really worried about how it was going to be received. You know, it just, we didn't have any of those thoughts back then.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to bring that back this time. So, you know, less about kind of musically going there and more like emotionally going there for us, as far as like embracing the fun aspect of it. And then we're a 4-piece again. We were a 4-piece then. I don't know. It just kind of was like a full circle thing, where it was like, you know, and the 15 years, it just made sense. You know, let's just do it. I think we can capture some of the magic again. And, you know, you tell me, I think they stand up as pretty good tracks, you know.
Oh, definitely. And I read in another interview that you did too, that you felt that there was a real honesty and almost a vulnerability with this album as well. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think, you know, lyrically, absolutely, but also like in the music, you know, it's like we could have hired some crazy shredder to just put, you know, the psycho solos all over the thing, but ultimately we said, no, let's just push forward as a 4-piece, and we'll do what we've always done, which is become better musicians over time. And we, all the solos you hear on the record, those are Corey's solos. And, I think it's, of course, it's not the same technical level as a World War X solo, but that's okay. I mean, we weren't trying to be anything we weren't, and we weren't really too worried about it. So there's a vulnerability there in our musicianship. And then I think also lyrically, I was definitely feeling extremely insecure and uncertain and having a lot of mixed emotion. And I put all that into the album. And I think while they are specific to what I was going through at the moment, they're universal themes. So even when we get past all this stuff, I know emotionally the record is still going to connect with people because it has that raw vulnerability in it.
Definitely, yeah. And you mentioned about feeling insecure. Did that make the writing process harder for you, or did it make it slightly easier because it felt like you were letting everything out?
Probably the latter. Kind of going back to the title, Graveside Confessions, it was kind of like it was examining the interior life and, really looking at all the things that you may have in your head that you don't really voice or communicate to other people. And so I think, in a way, it was just that kind of what Carnifex always is, which is this purge. It may not always be the prettiest thing, but for some reason, when you get to the end, you kind of feel like you got something off your chest in this very raw way. And I think that's on the album, So it was kind of good to just sort of spill my guts,
Yeah, we talked about the writing process. What about the recording process? What was that like for you guys? Because I know that you guys did pretty much everything yourselves this time.
Yeah, Sean has been doing pre-production for all the records we've done going back to like 2009. And he's really just gotten to the point where he's an excellent engineer. He can track a record just as good as anyone else. And so it was a combination of circumstance. Obviously we weren't going to be flying anywhere to go do a record, but it was also like the right time. Like, it wasn't like, Sean was thinking, oh, okay, time to get serious. It was like he just stepped right into it. Like, wasn't even a challenge at all as far as from an engineering aspect. So it was really just the right time, I think. And I'm glad that we did it because I think regardless of any future, travel situation, he'll be engineering all the records.
Yeah, definitely. There's a real natural feel to this album. It's something that when I was taking notes, when I was listening to the album, it feels really natural. And I think that comes across that this is an album that's been put together by a band with not very many external hands touching it.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yeah, it's a very undistilled, a kind of undiluted version of it. A very distilled version. And I like that about it, to be honest with you. And it is a little rough around the edges, but you know what? We're a little rough around the edges.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like we're all self-taught musicians. None of us went to any school of music. None of us have years of music lessons. We're just metalheads going on hard. And so I think that's in the album. Yeah,
definitely. And it was the 15th anniversary as well of Denim Arms. What was it like going back and revisiting that album, and what made you choose the 3 tracks that you chose to re-record?
Really, it was just us trying to have fun. It was, we knew the record was sounding good, and we wanted to, we were a 4-piece then, we're a 4-piece now. It made sense, I think. And also we had the time. We had this year to just, sit here. So we figured, why not, let's keep adding songs to the record.
Yeah.
We kind of it was kind of more in line with just being, more carefree.
Yeah, definitely. If someone had said to you 15 years ago when you were recording that album that in 15 years' time you guys would be going so strong, what would you have said to them? Would you have found that hard to believe, or was that always the dream for you to have a long-lasting band?
I would have found it hard to believe. Oddly, maybe it's because we're at the 15-year thing. We've been sort of getting questions like this, and I think back to that time, and it's like we had the absence of a plan. Like, we had no plan, and I don't know if it was because maybe the social media thing was different back then, but we were just like going one day at a time. Like, we didn't know how to make a band popular. I think right now there's a pretty easy recipe to make a band popular. It's really not that hard. Whereas back then, I don't know. You know, people were telling us that, you know, bands were dead and recordings were dead because you remember Napster and LimeWire was still like really big at the time. So like, I remember people telling us like, you're never going to get a record deal. Record labels are dead. The whole music business is dead. You guys picked the worst time ever to be a band. You can't be a band. And so we kind of like had it in our heads from early on that like, oh, well, we missed whatever was good about being a band, but oh, okay, whatever. Like, this is just me and Sean writing music we love, having fun. And we didn't really think much further than that, to be honest with you.
Yeah. What's been the biggest thing that you've seen change over that 15 years, and what would you say has been your biggest highlight to date?
The biggest thing I've seen change? Well, I mean, you know, Nielsen and Billboard basically don't matter anymore. And I remember when we started, like, that was, you know, God, like, get your first week sales up or die. And now that's not even a thing. So that's kind of funny. I don't know. I've seen behind the scenes, I've seen so many management companies come and go, so many agencies come and go, you know, guys that get, you know, bought up by this company, by that company. They end up at some of the biggest agency in the world. And then that agency fires all of them. You know, it's just like, I've just seen so many cycles now. Hype bands come and go, you know, a band like that just you get beat over the fucking head with for like years and years, and then that band's gone. And then there's a new band that they beat you over the head with, and then that band's gone. It's like, I've just seen so many cycles of the music biz at this point that I feel like it's sort of, it's just very secular, you know?
Yeah. I was actually going to say that, with you guys being around now for 15 years, as a music journalist that's been doing this now for almost 25 years, you see so many bands come and go. Like, you'll get a press release, this is the new band, they're hot shit, check them out, and then 6 months later, they've broken up. Like, is there a secret to how you guys have gone on for 15 years?
Yeah, there is. It's two things. One, we're a band that exists in spite of the industry, not because of it.
Yep.
And if you're a band that exists because of the industry, then you have a shelf life of, you better be making top fucking dollar, and you better hope no one else makes more money than you, because then you're going to be old news. When you're a band that exists in spite of the industry, like us, it's your fans that keep you alive.
Yeah.
And the fact that your agent fires you, or you don't have a manager, or, you know, you're on Victory for 8 years, none of that shit matters, because you have fans that support you. So I would say that's one big difference. And then the second difference is, the people that I'm in the band with, we're actually friends, which probably sounds weird, but it's true. Like, you have to actually enjoy the people you're making music with. Otherwise, it's just not going to work.
Definitely. A band should be family. I always find it weird when I chat to a band, and you can tell that they're a manufactured band, because they'll say things like, oh yeah, we haven't been in the same room together for 12 months and things like that. And it's like, to me, a band should be family. I don't know if that's how you feel as well.
I mean, it can be many things, but I guess if you want it to truly be, you know, driven by art and driven by the artists, then you have to have the band, meaning, you know, however many people are in it, have to be more than the sum of their parts together. You can't be running on just one person's persona or one person's hype. It just won't work. You'll have a revolving door of members, and when you don't develop something like a 15-year catalog where people that are fans of the band can appreciate every album for what it is by being ingenuine.
Yeah.
You know, like, we're not the most technical, we're certainly not the most popular, but I know for a fucking fact we're really fucking genuine. Like, we put our hearts into every record we put out, you know, whether someone likes it or not. And so I think that can't be done unless you really have that vulnerability with the other people you're in the band with, meaning it's not like some ego battle for who gets their shit on the record. It's just, let's make the best record. And I think you can't do that unless you're really friends.
Definitely, definitely. Scott, what does it look like there now for you guys? I mean, our music industry is completely shut down, but are you guys going to be able to get out there and do some shows around the release?
Yeah, we are. Thankfully, we're supporting the Black Dahlia Murder here September 3rd. It kicks off. We do 6 weeks with them, and that tour ends on the East Coast in New York, and we're doing 2 weeks headlining a tour with Enterprise Earth and Of Sulfur getting back to California. So we're doing about 8 weeks straight right when the record comes out. Going to Europe in January for a month with Chelsea Grin and Lorna Shore. Really looking forward to that one. And then coming back here for a co-headline tour June of 22. So
awesome.
Stay busy.
Well, mate, is there anything you'd like to say to finish up to your fans here in Australia who are going to get a chance to listen to this album in a couple of weeks' time?
Try to enjoy the record front to back. You know, that would be my thing. You know, the record is free to listen to, of course, doesn't cost you a thing. So just start on song 1 and just get lost in the record for the hour and let it take you somewhere. And if it, you know, inspires you or makes you feel something, try to grab a vinyl or a CD or a tape or a t-shirt. Any one of those things goes a long way in supporting us.
Definitely. Well, mate, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Thank you so much for your honesty, and thank you so much for such an amazing album as well.
Hey, man, I appreciate all the nice things you said. Thank you.